this is Sierra and welcome to another video. Today we're doing another story. We are doing the second part of The Legend of the Sea Doggo. Technically there is no parts, just me reading the chapters. Right now we are reading chapter 4. So yeah, why don't we get started? If you haven't read the first one, be sure you do so. If we get spoilers, yes, they're a thing. Careful. Spoilers. We don't want spoilers. Yeah. Anyway, let's get started. I'm sure you want to see what happens next in this lovely story. Chapter 4. Only a few hours had passed since he'd met his new friends and had explained to them everything that had happened to him. They seemed very understanding and welcoming, which he very much appreciated. They even took the time to answer most of his questions the best that they could. And now he was sitting on a small chair in the main room of the house that intersected the two bedrooms. Stampy's bedroom and the bedroom belonging to a iron golem and a snow golem named Hilda and Henry respectively. Sam had gone up to the room of no requirement to get in touch with someone to see what the best message was for Danny. Since after all he had shown up here all of a sudden, people had a right to know what was going on. He sat there quietly, leaning against the wall of one of the bedrooms, trying to think of something that he could do. He didn't want to go too far from his new friends, in case those men tried to attack again. But he also didn't want to cause trouble for them either, especially since they'd been through a lot already, it seemed. He didn't know all the details, but it was enough to know that it had been a crazy adventure. It seemed like an eternity had passed. It was probably only a few minutes as he sat there thoughtfully. There was still so many questions in his mind, but he hadn't wanted to overwhelm these people with them too much. He could help it. There were some things he could figure out on his own, and some things that he probably shouldn't mention, since he didn't know how his friends would feel about it. His thoughts, however, were interrupted when he heard the whine of a dog not too far from him. He looked down to see a dog with a red collar wagging his tail anxiously, his deep brown, intelligent eyes full of life and determination. "Why, hello there. Is there something you need help with?" The dog asked. Danny asked the dog curiously, tilting his head slightly. The dog barked a few times and ran toward the hallway, and then back to him again, several times, for emphasis. "Do you want me to follow you?" Danny interpreted quickly. The dog yipped excitedly as the fellow canine stood and followed the smaller dog down the hallway, towards the end where he saw an open door leading out onto to a balcony where a familiar figure stood. "You're Steppy, right?" Danny asked as he got closer, the orange ginger cat turning back towards him with a surprise, but was quickly replaced with a smile. "Yeah, that's me," Steppy replied with a nod. "What are you up to?" "Nothing much," Danny admitted. "Just waiting for news, I guess." "Yeah, probably best," Steppy said simply, as he turned back towards the balcony, the view of a ship ahead, facing the sea beyond it. "That boat looks pretty cool," Danny said with amusement, as he stood next to his new friend. 3 other dogs, some were behind them. No doubt the dog wanted to ensure that his master wasn't alone out here. He was okay with that. "It does," Steppy admitted as he let out a sigh. "Too bad I can't really sail the 7 seas, so to speak, on it for a while." "Why not?" the dog asked curiously. "Mr. Hayes' men, mostly," the cat shrugged. "Their helicopters can be lethal if the proper precaution isn't taken." Okay," Danny replied simply. "I suppose you're an expert on that stuff, I guess?" "I'm not an expert, actually," the cat said with a laugh. "Most of the time I'm struggling to simply survive their attacks, especially when their leader wants me dead." "He wants all of us dead, though," Danny muttered simply. "True. But I've gotten away from him and evaded death countless times, thanks to my friends." the cat replied quietly. He does not like that at all. Gotcha. Then, he said with a nod. How are you coping with that? Well enough, the cat said with a shrug. Some days are harder than others, but I'm getting there. That's good, Danny replied simply. I can't imagine how terrifying it would be if there were people out there who wanted you dead. Yeah, the cat snorted with a laugh. Too bad I have more than one group to worry about, thanks to the lies of a betrayer. That's rather unfortunate, Danny agreed. Yep, the cat replied, a sad tone in his voice, as he looked longingly at the ship head. Something about this moment seemed heartbreaking, sad. Something Danny wasn't quite aware of. Something happened. Has his new friend lost something to these men? No doubt he'd been through a lot, but this moment felt different somehow. Not the normal cheerful fun he first got to experience. So what do you think is the best place for me right now? Danny asked the cat, wanting to direct the conversation away from the sadness. Probably not back at your home for a while. Unfortunately, the cat said with a small chuckle. Maybe a safe house of some kind? I don't know. Me neither, Danny agreed. I'm sure that Sam will make the best decision, though, right? I believe so, Debbie replied. Trust him to know what's best for those he needs to take care of and protect. Of course he would. He's in charge of protecting you, Danny said simply. Debbie laughed. Yeah, and I am really glad for that. Danny nodded with a smile, following his friend's gaze off into the distance, wondering what was beyond the horizon. He may never know the answer to that, though. He was okay with that. He had to trust these new people, and knowing he was alone in this journey helped him. All of this was nice, and he would miss the short time he had with his new friends. But maybe, someday, he would see them again soon. Chapter 5. Danny was still awake in the living room, the place where he decided to spend the night. He couldn't get himself to sleep on the couch, no matter how hard he tried. His mind full of questions and uncertainties that kept him wide awake. He knew he was leaving early the next morning, going to a safe house near his school, where a few people could keep an eye on him while he stayed there. He didn't mind that so much, but the thought of being in a new place alone with strangers was unnerving. He was already starting to like his new friends here, and the thought of leaving them was enough unease as it was. What if this didn't work out? What if he was putting everyone in even more danger by leaving? What was the best decision at this point? He wasn't sure. Danny finally gave up on sleep, sitting up on the couch as he faced the large television before him. The room had a simple design, with small decorations in the area. He decided to stay here so he could give his friends a little more space, and hopefully to make leaving easier. But none of this was easy. He trusted these people and knew they were doing the best they could with what they had, but he hated leaving them behind, not knowing what would happen to them. Communicating wasn't allowed unless for emergencies, because someone could risk overhearing. There was so much he didn't know, and he wasn't sure if he wanted to know. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted when he heard footsteps in the hallway. They weren't hard, but rather light and swift, like someone was trying their best not to be heard or detected. Danny sat there for a long moment, uneasily, until he heard a knock on the door. Who was it? The dog kindly asked after the knocking came the second time. The door opened, and the canine could see Snappy standing in the doorway with an apologetic smile. Do you mind if I come in? The cat asked calmly, holding the door open with one paw. Is there something wrong? Danny asked the cat uneasily. Not sure, but I don't feel safe in my own room right now, Snappy admitted. Something feels wrong, and I'd rather be with someone, for at least a little while. Danny nodded his head with understanding. I patted an open seat next to him. The open seat next to him. That's all right. Feel free to have a seat. Relief filled the cat's expression as he entered the living room and closed the door behind him, heading over to sit next to him. The dog scooted back to give his friend enough room as the cat sat down, looking off at the screen of the television for a long moment. So, what would you like to talk about? Danny asked at last, after a long pause of uneasy silence. I don't know, the cat said. A lot is on my mind, though, currently. Same here. Dog replied with a chuckle. This won't go on forever, will it? Hope not, but for me, it's been over a year since I found out about those men. And they've been causing me trouble for a long time since then. The cat sighed as he shook his head. I'd like to hope they'd be stopped, but it's not as easy as you might think. How bad can they actually be? Danny asked him simply, noticing the cat shudder when he asked. Pretty bad, the cat replied quietly, looking down at his feet. Those men have ways to torture you, break you, consume you with fear and hopelessness, and it's very hard to get out of that cycle once you're full in it. I see, the canine replied softly. Probably wasn't the best thing to ask. No, it's alright, the cat replied simply. It's good to know these kinds of things, even when they're difficult to talk about. Yeah, I suppose you're right, Danny said with a smile. Another delicate moment passed as the dog tried to figure out something else to say. However, before he could do so, there was a sudden thud near the kitchen that made the both of them jump as Danny glanced nervously over toward the kitchen, realizing that it was one simple opening. Was someone in there? Should he be nervous? Or had something just fallen down causing a loud noise? What caused that noise? Danny stood from the couch, faced the kitchen, trying to see if he could see someone was there. Nothing. Not a sound could be heard, except for the sound of his pounding heart in his ears. Something wasn't right. Both of them knew it, that someone was here. It had to be. Who's there? The dog demanded, hoping no one would answer. Unfortunately for him, he watched as a man with simple attire walked out into view, a small smile on his face. Were you expecting someone else? The man asked smoothly. The dog heard the cat gasp with surprise. Something about this man seemed familiar to his friend, and the reaction didn't sound good. What do you want? Danny asked, standing in front of his friend, knowing there was only one way to escape. The man wouldn't be smart enough to cut them off from the rest of the house. Trapping them in here? They'd probably try. Well, you wouldn't know, the man said smoothly, pointing over to the cat, who also stood, edging nervously towards the door. But that traitor definitely would. Those are lies, Danny said. They aren't mine, no, the man sneered. I'm just here with my friends to ensure this traitor gets what he deserves. The dog's attention was diverted when he heard a yelp of surprise as he turned to see the other door was open. Another man stepped in, grabbing a helpless cat. Let him go, Danny demanded, as he took a step towards his friend, only to stop and the man chuckled. If I were you, I would stay out of business that isn't yours, the man warned. The dog slowly, as his voice deep and hard, firm and demanding. He was in control. He was in charge. The dog didn't like it in the slightest. Don't listen to him, the cat told him. Get out of here and get help. I'm not leaving you, Danny snapped determinedly, as he glared at the man as he added, and bullies like you don't get to tell me what to do. We'll see about that, the man sneered as he lunged for the dog. He managed to dodge him effortlessly as he lunged at the man holding Snappy, pulling the cat out of his grip and running out of the room. That was crazy! The cat gasped in surprise as they ran towards the storage room, the dog noticing and looking nervously behind him. It's not done yet, Danny said simply. We need a safe place to hide and alert the others. We'll be doing that if we can help it, another voice said from one other side of the room. The dog glanced briefly over to see that the crafting and furnace room was locked as the man approached. We'll see about that, the dog said matter-of-factly as they ran towards the front entrance. Managing to escape outside, he ran through the town, trying to figure out where to hide. Behind here should be fine, Garrett replied, pointing to pick a pet shop. Danny nodded as he snuck behind the pet shop, and they both collapsed to the ground, unsure of what to say next. He knew he couldn't stay here forever. For now, they were safe. You okay? Danny asked as they finally caught their breaths and sat there quietly. Yeah, I'm okay. The cat nodded. Thanks to you. They shouldn't underestimate me, the dog mused. Danny mused. Agreed. The cat said with a light chuckle. The moment was interrupted by a subtle whine by the cat's side, and the dog looked down to see another canine with yellow collar wagging her fluffy white tail. Why, spell check, why? Hey, Fluffy, the cat said happily, scratching her behind the ear. Do you think you can do a favor for me? The dog whined happily, nuzzling against her master affectionately. Seeing warmed Danny's heart, he saw the cuteness before him. Let the others know we're safe, the cat replied. Hide out until the men are dealt with. Fluffy whined again anxiously before teleporting away, disappearing from sight as the cat leaned back against the wall. No doubt relieved, the drama had somewhat halted. How long do you think we should stay here? Danny asked the cat. Not much longer, the cat sighed as he went to stand up. Danny doing the same as the canine looked around at his surroundings. Where to then? The dog asked curiously, his mind trying to find something that they could do. A place where they could go, hide for the time being. I guess we can wander around a little bit, the cat said with a shrug. Try to lose any possible pursuers? Danny nodded as he turned to start walking. Suddenly he heard a whizzing sound. Before I could react, he felt something sharp bite into his shoulder. He gasped in pain as he stumbled to his knees. Danny? The cat asked with concern. The dog looked behind them, seeing a man in what appeared to be a dark black uniform approach them. Get out of here, Danny insisted to the cat. Leave me. What? The cat argued as the dog struggled to his feet, standing between the cat and the man. Just go, Danny demanded. Please, just trust me. The dog noticed the cat's subtle nod. They turned around. I wouldn't be so sure it would be that easy, the man's chilling voice said, ringing through the dog's ears. At the bottom of his core, as an explosion thrust both YouTubers off their feet, and Danny hit hard against the wall behind him. Falling to the ground, he heard his name being called, but he remembered nothing more. He quickly fell to unconsciousness. Are you kidding me? Ay, 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 ay. Well, we could end that episode there. Yeah, if you haven't read any of these parts yet, you're in trouble. You're not in trouble, I mean. Ugh. Okay. This thing is stupid sometimes. Yeah, you haven't read this chapter. You've heard this part. Yeah. Thanks, Google Docs. That was very helpful. Let's get right into it. Yeah. That's a pretty good cliffhanger. Sorry guys, we're gonna have to end that there. The next part gets into some drama, and I don't think you want that kind of cliffhanger. At least you'll be in suspense, but I can save you from an even bigger cliffhanger. It's like, what would you rather have, a mild cliffhanger or a major cliffhanger? Because if I stopped at chapter 6, you would have to wait another week before you get into the next part of that section. And I want to save you from that. At least you can wait another week to see what happens, and it won't be so bad. Whether or not you agree with me is another question. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'll be going into the next part, and you'll be seeing what happens next. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.